Namaste. Welcome to the lecture series on the subject Basic Thermodynamics, Module 1, Fundamental Concepts and Definitions. This is lecture number 2. Myself, Dr. N. Satish Kumar, Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering, Canara Engineering College, Benjanapada. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about thermodynamic properties. Thermodynamic properties. So the variables which determine the state or exact condition of a substance or system is called as its properties. This is state or exact condition. So you need to have some variables to express the state or to express the condition. Like these variables are like pressure, temperature, specific volume, internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, etc. Now here it is a condition of the substance or system, because system is just nothing but the specified region wherein our concentration is focused in the study of thermodynamics, and within the boundary of the system what you have is the substance. So that is why it is called, I will show you, the condition of a substance or system, because one and the same thing, because system is comprising of this substance. Now here in this module or in this lecture 2, we are going to discuss each of these properties in detail. So let us begin with the pressure. So as you know, pressure is defined as the normal force per unit area. So force per unit area is the pressure. So then automatically the unit of force is nothing but unit of force divided by unit of area. So what is the unit of force? It is Newton. What is the unit of area in SI system? It is a meter square. So unit of pressure is Newton per meter square, which is called as Pascal. So 1 Pascal is nothing but 1 Newton per meter square. But in thermodynamics, so we come across huge quantity of or value of this pressure. So generally Pascal is not used. We express it in kilopascal, which is nothing but 1000 Pascal, or sometimes in terms of megapascal, which is nothing but 10⁻⁶ Pascal or 1000 kilopascal. The standard atmospheric pressure, which is measured by a barometer, right, which is a reference for all our calculations, is equal to 1.01325 bar. Now expressed in kilopascal, it will be 101.325, and when expressed in Pascal, it will be 101.325 Pascal, and also equal to 760 millimeters of mercury. Now from this you can find out what is 1 millimeters of mercury, which is nothing but 0.1333 kilopascal or 13.6 millimeters of water. Now 1 bar is 10 to the power 5 Pascal, or it is 100 kilopascal. So 1 bar is 10 to the power 5 Pascal or 100 kilopascal. Now suppose if the pressure is given as 1 Newton per millimeter square, then how to convert that into meter square? See, 1 millimeter square, an area of 1 millimeter square is applied with a force of 1 Newton. Now if the area is 1 meter square, right, so that means as if you are taking a square of 1 meter length and 1 meter width, right? So here each is 1 meter length, means it is length is 1000 millimeter and width is also 1000 millimeter. So 1000 into 1000, so there is 10 to the power 6 such millimeter square areas are there. Small areas, each of 1 millimeter square. How many such squares are there? 10 to the power 6. So each area is applied with a force of 1 Newton. So there are 10 to the power 6 such areas are there. So total force is 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter square. So this is how you convert 1 Newton per millimeter square into Newton per meter square, which is 10 to the power 6 Newton per meter square, or in other words it can be expressed as 1000 kilopascal. Okay, the pressure exerted by atmosphere on Earth's surface is known as the atmospheric pressure. So it is measured by a device called as barometer, and it is measured at the standard conditions, that is at the sea level and at 0 degrees Celsius, and its standard value obtained at that condition is 760 millimeters of mercury, and hence this is called as the standard atmospheric pressure. Now we discuss the gauges: gauge pressure, vacuum pressure and the absolute pressure. You know that usually the pressure is measured by the devices called as gauges. So in any device for that matter, if it is used for any measurement, you should have some reference points or the fixed points. Let me give the example of a thermometer. So thermometer has two fixed points. One is the ice point of water, which is marked as 0 degrees Celsius, because it is taken as a reference as 0 degrees Celsius. Actual ice point temperature is not 0, absolute temperature is not 0, but it is taken as reference as 0 universally. And boiling point of water is taken as 100, and the distance between 0, that mercury length between 0 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius is divided into 100 equal parts, and it is calibrated to give the temperature readings. Now when you have a gauge, so it should also have a reference point which should be marked as 0. So what is 0 in the gauge? So in the gauge, the standard atmospheric pressure, that is 760 millimeters of mercury, is marked as 0, and any pressure measured is above atmospheric pressure. Now suppose if you are using a gauge and it shows 2 bar pressure. So from where? From 0 it is showing, but 0, is it real 0? No. What is marked as 0? Standard atmospheric pressure is marked as 0. What is its value? So its value is 1.01325 bar. So 0 itself is 1.01325 bar, and above that the gauge shows 2 bar. So what is your total pressure? It is 1.01325 plus 2 bar, so it is 3.01325 bar. So this is how we measure the actual pressure. So that is called as absolute pressure. So let us explain this using this diagram. So you can see here. So this is the absolute pressure for vacuum. You see, this is absolute pressure for vacuum, and you know that vacuum pressure is nothing but a pressure below atmospheric. Now this reference line, you see this line, is the atmospheric pressure. So pressure below that, you can see, is vacuum pressure. So it gives a reading what is below 0. Below 0, but actually this 0 itself is atmospheric pressure. You see, from here to here, 0 is marked for your reference in the instrument, but it is not 0. Actually it is atmospheric pressure, 1.01325 bar, and your vacuum gauge shows how much it is below 0. So from 1.01325, so this is the below that, this is the pressure. So actual pressure is this. You see, this absolute pressure. So that is how the vacuum gauges are used to measure the pressure. Okay. Now in case of gauge pressure, which measures pressure above atmospheric, you see this is a reference which is marked as 0, but it is not 0, and this is the pressure above 0, that is gauge, but 0 is nothing but atmospheric pressure. So your total pressure is atmospheric pressure plus this gauge pressure, which is called as absolute pressure. You can see this is called as absolute pressure. So that is what gauge pressure here, which is nothing but this pressure, and vacuum pressure, that is nothing but this pressure, and absolute pressure is from the absolute 0. This is called as absolute 0 because it is the universal minimum. Below that you cannot have any pressure. Okay, so that is how you have to measure the absolute pressure. It should be from the datum, 0 datum. So if it is vacuum pressure, you have to subtract from P atmospheric. If it is gauge pressure, then you have to add it to the atmospheric pressure to get the absolute pressure. So let us express in mathematical formula. Okay, So the actual pressure of the working substance is called the absolute pressure. So for gauge pressure or positive pressure, P absolute is equal to P atmospheric plus P gauge. So that is what I told. For a gauge pressure or positive pressure, the pressure above atmospheric is called as gauge pressure or positive pressure. In that case, if you want absolute pressure, so for that whatever this is the reading obtained by your gauge, you have to add atmospheric pressure to that to get the absolute pressure. Whereas if it is a vacuum pressure, as you can see here, which is the pressure measured below atmosphere. You see how much is below the atmosphere is indicated by the vacuum gauge or the negative pressure. So here absolute pressure is nothing but reading obtained in the vacuum gauge should be subtracted from the atmospheric pressure. So this is very important. Whenever you solve the problem, you should find out whether it's the gauge pressure or the vacuum pressure. In other words, gauge pressure is nothing but P absolute minus P atmospheric, and vacuum pressure is nothing but P atmospheric minus P absolute. Now coming to the definition of volume, the space occupied by the substance is called as volume. Suppose if you have your classroom or your living room, you can easily find out the volume of that room, and substance also occupies the same space. So it is always expressed in meter cube, and sometimes it may be given in liter also. In that case, you should know 1 liter is 1000 cc or 10 to the power minus 3 meter cube. 1 liter is 1000 cc. Now 1 liter, that you know, it is 1000 cc. Cc means centimeter cube. So centimeter into centimeter into centimeter. You see, cc means centimeter into 3 times, and each centimeter should be converted into meter by dividing by 100. So 3 centimeters are there. When divided by 100 3 times, it becomes 1000 divided by 10 to the power 6. So when this 10 to the power 6 goes to numerator and 3 zeros cancelled here, so it becomes 10 to the power 3 minus 3 meter cube, 10 to the power minus 3 meter cube. So that is how you have to convert liter into meter cube, 1000 cc and then into meter cube. Okay. Now specific volume, you see, volume is nothing but a total volume. Specific volume means it is volume occupied by unit mass of the substance, because it is very easy to compare the density or specific volumes of the substances, because it is for 1 kg. So space occupied by 1 kg of all substances is not same. Space occupied by 1 kg of iron is different, 1 kg of cotton is different, 1 kg of water is different. That means they vary in terms of specific volume. Suppose if you have a room of some 10 meter cube, if you fill that with the cotton, it may weigh less or its mass is less. Suppose if you fill it with iron, so then that mass will be more because its density is more or its specific volume is less. Okay, so that is what specific volume is, nothing but volume per unit mass expressed in meter cube per kg, and it is the reciprocal of density, which is nothing but mass per unit volume. So remember, mass by volume is density, volume by mass is specific volume. That means they are reciprocal to each other. So that is very important. Okay. So density rho is equal to mass by volume kg per meter cube. Specific volume is equal to small v, which is nothing but total volume by mass, or also equal to 1 by rho. Okay. So this is how we express specific volume and density of any substance, and density is equal to 1 by specific volume, or specific volume is equal to 1 by density. Okay, here you see a space is shown here in the figure here. So it is having a volume of 12 meter cube and having a mass of 3 kg. So in entire this space, so this volume is boundary, including boundary within the boundary. Okay, so it's 12 meter cube and mass is 3 meter cube, okay, and its density, if you calculate, it becomes mass by volume 3 by 12, so it becomes 0.25 kg per meter cube, and its specific volume is 1 by rho, or you can make it even capital V by small m, that is m. So 12 by 3, it is 4. So density is 4, whereas its specific volume is 4, whereas density is 0.25 kg per meter cube. Now coming to the definition of temperature, it is a thermodynamic property which determines the degree of hotness or the level of heat intensity of a body. Degree of hotness, or what is the heat intensity level in a body. So that is determined by the property called temperature. So a body is said to be at a high temperature, or you call it as hot, if it shows high level of heat intensity in it. Similarly, a body is said to be at low temperature or cold if it shows a low level of heat intensity in it. Usually, temperature is measured by thermometer. Very high temperatures is measured by pyrometer. So, pyrometer means it is mainly used to measure high temperatures. So, here it is based on the radiation, because you cannot insert or use directly the instrument in that place. For example, furnace temperatures, or where the temperature will be very, very high, maybe some 3000, 4000 degrees Celsius. Can you insert your thermometer in that? No, any device you cannot. But based on the radiation emitted from the source, so you can measure the temperature. So that is called as the pyrometer. So thermometer is for ordinary usage, for low temperatures. Suppose if the temperature is very small and you want precise temperature measurement, then you can go for the resistance thermometers or the thermocouples. So that is for the low and precise temperature measurement. Okay. Next, we have energy. General definition of energy. So energy may be defined as the capacity a body possesses for doing work. So capacity a body possesses for doing work is called as energy. This is already studied and its unit is in joule. And all forms of energy are mainly classified into two categories: stored energy and transient or energy in transition. Energy in transition or transient energy means the energy which crossing the boundary of the system, or which moves, which is capable of crossing the boundary, or which is capable of moving. So it is called as a transient or the energy in transition. So stored energy is the energy possessed by the system within its boundaries. So if you have a system, so energy within the boundary here, within this, that is mainly due to the kinetic energy, potential energy and intensity within the system, this region, whatever the energy possessed by the various molecules and other things, right? So that is called as the stored energy. Now, the transient energy is the energy possessed by a system which is capable of crossing the system boundaries or its boundaries. Now, suppose if I draw this box as a system or as a piston cylinder arrangement here, okay, let me draw a rough diagram. Now this is a piston, this is a cylinder arrangement here, inside this substance is there. Now if I heat this, so heat energy will cross this boundary. Now this is a system boundary here, it will cross the boundary at the enter the system. So what happened? Energy entering from these surroundings, now this is our surroundings, to the system, so energy has crossed its boundary, crossing the boundary. So that is energy in transition. Clear? Now here piston may be also displaced, it may be moving up, so work is done. So boundary was here earlier, so through the boundary, so boundary itself is displaced, that means work is done. So once again energy is transferred or energy is crossing the boundary. So therefore heat and work are called as the energy in transition or the transient energy which is capable of crossing the boundary. Heat. Heat is defined as the energy transferred without transfer of mass across the boundary of a system due to temperature difference between the system and the surroundings. You see, heat is a form of energy. Clear? So, energy transferred, try to understand this very clearly. Energy transferred without transfer of mass. Just now I have shown you example of piston cylinder arrangement where cylinder is heated from the bottom. So, during this, no mass entered into the system, right? But heat has transferred. So, energy transferred without transfer of mass. Try to understand this. Without transfer of mass across the boundary of a system. Now, the requirement for heat to flow from one place to another place is the temperature difference. So here also, so this energy transfer takes place due to temperature difference between the system and the surroundings, which should be at low temperature. If the heat has to flow from the surroundings to the system, system temperature should be less, surrounding temperature should be high. Then only heat, because it is capable of moving from high temperature region to low temperature region. So temperature difference is must for the heat flow. If you have two regions, both are at same temperature. For example, if we take this pen, if this end is also 30 degree, this end is also at 30 degree, then no heat transfer takes place between this. Entire pen will be at 30 degree. Now suppose if I start heating this, then automatically this end, which was earlier at 30 degrees Celsius, so its temperature starts rising. 30, 31, 32, 33, it may go up to 40. As soon as it starts rising, so heat transfer takes place from this end to this end. Now after certain time, when it reaches 40 degrees Celsius, I stop this heating, I remove the source of heat. Then further also the heat transfer continues till the temperature becomes uniform, maybe between 30 and 40. Any equilibrium temperature, maybe 35 also. That depends upon the total mass also here. And its mass capacity also. That I can't predict unless other I know the mass and the specific heat of this substance. So here requirement for the heat to from this end to this end is a temperature difference. If the temperature is same at both the ends and throughout this pen, so heat will not flow. So that is very, very important. Okay. So here heat transfer is nothing but energy transferred without transfer of mass across the boundary of a system due to temperature between the system and the surroundings. So here heat energy is the purely energy in transition. Try to understand this. So heat energy cannot be stored in a system. And unit for heat and any other form of energy is a joule, because heat is also a form of energy itself, so its unit is joule. Now here there is a sign convention. What is that? Heat flow into the system is positive and heat flow out of the system is negative. Suppose if you have a system, let me draw a simple diagram and explain you. So this is the system, okay, which is having some substance. Now if the heat flows inside the system or into the system, I mean from surroundings to inside the system, then we take it as positive. Any heat entering into the system should be taken as positive, and any heat which is leaving or given by the system should be taken as negative. So this is negative. Heat coming out from the system should be taken as negative heat. Okay. Just an example wherein a hot coffee kept open on a table, right? After some time it gets cooled. What is the reason? You can see the coffee initially is at 70 degrees Celsius. Now this coffee within this boundary, it forms the system, and outside the temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. So temperature difference exists between coffee and the environment, so automatically heat flows from the coffee to the outer environment, right? So thereby after some time the temperature of coffee also becomes 20 degrees Celsius. because environment can take any amount of heat supplied to it, so its temperature will not increase so easily, so its temperature will remain the same at 20, and coffee temperature is also will come down to 70 because of the heat transfer. Okay, here one more diagram is shown, right? So system, you can see, so system boundary is represented by dotted line. You have the surroundings, right? Now heat flow in, Q out, here shown, right? Similarly W in, W out. They just shown the energy can cross the boundary, right? So this is how the Q in is marked. Q in is always from surrounding to the system, whereas Q out is from system to the surroundings, whereas W in is from the surrounding to the system, that is work done on the system, and if the work is done by the system, then the arrow mark will be from outside. So this is how we represent or we give the directional sign convention for the heat and work transfer. Now work. So work is also defined as the energy transferred without transfer of mass across the boundary of a system. So definition remains same, but heat is because of the temperature difference, but here work is due to the because of intensive property difference other than temperature that exists between the system and the surroundings. So there should be intensive property difference. What is intensive property? That we will discuss in the next lecture, because there are two classification of thermodynamic properties, intensive property and the extensive property. So there I will come to that. So here, like temperature difference should be there for heat transfer, so for the work transfer, so there should be a intensive property difference, but it is other than temperature. So usually it will be the pressure. Only if pressure difference is there, then the work transfer will take place between the system and the surroundings. So that I will explain later in appropriate point of time. Okay. So unit of work is also Newton meter or joule, because this is also another form of energy. Now here, like heat, the sign convention you have seen, heat entering into the system is positive and heat leaving the system is taken as negative. Whereas for work done by the system is positive and work done upon the system is negative. So that we'll see later when it is called as work done by the system, when it is called as work done upon the system. Okay, next is the internal energy. So what do you mean by internal energy? So it is energy possessed by a body or system due to its molecular arrangement and motion of the molecules. See, a system comprises of lakhs of molecules, right, within the system, moving from one place to another place, and also at a different height. So these molecules, so they possess the energy by virtue of its motion as well as by virtue of its position. So you know that any object, the energy possessed by it by virtue of motion, we call it as kinetic energy, because it is half mv square. So v is the velocity. So molecule has got fixed mass, but it has got variable velocity. Every molecule has different velocity, so they are randomly moving within the system from one place to another place, striking the walls of the container, again coming back, striking another wall and moving back, so different directions. So velocity is one of the important parameter here, and the next parameter is the position of that molecule from the reference surface or the datum. So because of this position, they possess a energy, that is the energy possessed by virtue of its position, which is called as the potential energy, mgh. So m is fixed for the molecule, g is the universal constant, so only variable is h. So based on its height from the reference surface, every molecule has got different potential energy. Now here, this is called as internal potential energy and also internal kinetic energy of the molecules. So internal energy is nothing but sum of this internal kinetic energy and internal potential energy. And also you should know that this internal energy is purely the function of temperature, because if you increase the temperature, how you can increase the temperature of a substance or a molecule? by adding heat. You know that heat is a form of energy. So heating or increasing the temperature, nothing but you are adding energy to the substance. So if you add heat to the system, who will absorb that energy, heat energy? It is nothing but the molecules. So molecules are energized by increasing the temperature or by adding heat to it. So when the molecules are energized, so their movement becomes faster. That means their velocity increases. The moment velocity increases, their kinetic energy increases. In turn, the internal energy also increases. And the same opposite occurs if you decrease the temperature or if you remove the heat from the substance. So that is what, if you can see here, the internal energy is a function of temperature, can be increased by adding heat to the substance. Is understand? Only pick up these words. And internal energy is function of temperature and can be decreased by subtracting heat from the substance. You see how to make it like that. So with the addition of heat you can increase the internal energy, and by removal of heat you can decrease the internal energy of a substance. But one most important thing you should note about internal energy is its absolute value cannot be measured. Absolute value means for a given condition or for a given state, if you are asked to find out its internal energy, which is nothing but the sum of internal kinetic energy and internal potential energy, you cannot find out that, because it's very difficult to measure the velocity of each and every molecule and position of each and every molecule. So both internal kinetic energy and internal potential energy cannot be measured, so you cannot find out absolute value of internal energy, but you can find out the change in internal energy when a substance undergoes a change of state from one state to another, that too by analytical method. By knowing the mass of the substance inside, by knowing its specific heat at constant volume, and also the temperature difference. So mCv dt. So that is a formula you use to calculate the change in internal energy. Now you can see here a formula is written, change in internal energy is given by U2 minus U1. Even though it is written as U2 minus U1, you should know that you cannot find out U2 and you cannot find out U1. That means its absolute value you cannot find out. Only thing is you can find out du, because du is a function of temperature. So by analytical method you can find out what is the change in internal energy. Now coming to the last topic of this lecture series 2, that is the enthalpy. So what is enthalpy? It is nothing but total heat and heat content. So total heat and heat content of any substance or system is called as its enthalpy, which is given by the sum of internal energy and product of absolute pressure and volume. You can see here, so enthalpy is denoted as H, given by or is equal to U plus PV, where U is the internal energy and PV is the product of pressure and volume. Now in the previous slide you studied that internal energy absolute value cannot be measured. Then can you think of finding the absolute value of enthalpy? No, because enthalpy is nothing but internal energy plus product of pressure and volume. When internal energy cannot be found out, its absolute value cannot be found out, how can you find out the absolute value of enthalpy? So that is not possible. So here also the change in enthalpy dH can be found out, H2 minus H1. Once again, H2 and H1 are the absolute values of enthalpy which cannot be found out, but you can find out du, and also you can find out the difference in the product of pressure and volumes. So this is how you have to find out the change in enthalpy when the system undergoes a change of state from one state to the another state. And to conclude, you have the entropy. So entropy is a property of the substance which is defined as or denoted as small s, and it is defined as the small increase of entropy ds of a substance is defined as the ratio of small addition of heat dq to the absolute temperature T, right? So it is the ratio of dq by T. Here you can see it is expressed in mathematical form as ds is equal to dq by T. So T is the temperature or absolute temperature at which the heat is supplied. So heat supplied is dq. So dq by T is nothing but the change in entropy. Again, once again, no absolute value of entropy cannot be found out. You have to find out the change in entropy when heat is added to the substance or removed from the substance. right? So here this dq is the amount of heat supplied. So more the amount of heat supplied, more is the change in entropy, right? So that is also, there is a possibility that entropy is decreasing if the heat is removed. Now note that the unit of entropy is joules per kg per Kelvin. So here amount dq is the amount of heat supplied per kg of the substance, and T is the absolute temperature in Kelvin. So the unit of entropy is joules per kg per Kelvin. So with this I conclude the lecture number 2 of this module 1, and we will continue in the lecture number 3 in the next. Okay, thank you.